candy. Want candy now!
What's going on, everybody? Nazdarachi here, finally coming back to you guys with another episode of Relic Review. They're finally releasing something very good that I am interested in. Now, there's been a lot of hodgepodge, mishmash of novice events, as well as the rebirth dungeons and some good raid events. Remember that Nemesis is available right now. I've done everything except for the Apex, so that should be fun. But staying on track here, we finally have a new good event, the Shield of the King. It's a Final Fantasy 15 event. It is the first full-fledged banner for Final Fantasy 15, and for now, we only get this one. So this is going to be focused basically around 2.5 new characters. We have Noctis, who's not new, he's been in the game, but with only an OSB finishing move, he hasn't been ultra viable, except he's done quite nicely in certain jumpstart dungeons where only non-elemental damage shines, like Idea for example. But beyond that, he's pretty much half a new character, because he's getting Legend Materia relics, he's getting a BSB and an SSB, all of which are extremely good. Then you also have Gladio coming into the game, and he's got a really good BSB and a typical finishing move and kind of an average Super Soul Break and LMR. And then you have Iris, who's a great white mage and dancer. She is going to have a great BSB. The cure on it's not as impactful as it could be, but the stone scan buff and the burst commands along with her LMR make for a great setup. So we're going to jump right in here and check out some of this stuff. I am super stoked for this banner. I haven't made any pulls in a while. Was able to get back up to 100 mithril, so we're probably going to end up dumping all that into this banner here. But be mindful that you also have Final Fantasy IV approaching with Edge and Rubicant. And then after that, there's going to be a really good Final Fantasy V banner for Dorgan and Bartz. But for now, let's stick on track here. We're going into the Final Fantasy 15 Relic banner here. Now, I'm doing this review a little bit too soon, so I don't have accurate percent information on the actual drops here. But I'm going to basically say stick with the standard, where you're looking at about 0.5% to maybe upwards of 1.1% if you're lucky. On 6-star equipment. For your BSBs, you're looking at about 0.7% chance up to about 1.5% chance. That's kind of the same with LMRs as well. And then SSBs can be anywhere from about 1.5% up to about 3%. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Just stick with the standard here. The first item here is going to be the Sword of the Father. This is the returning OSB sword for Noctis. It does have good stats, but because Noctis is combat non-elemental only, we're not seeing any bonus effects here because his damage really can't be boosted featuring no elements. So you do have the Armiger OSB here. Massive physical damage to one target. Grant the user a barrier that negates attack damage up to 30% of their max HP. And enter Armiger mode for the duration of the barrier, reducing the delay of the user's actions and giving a 30% attack buff. And obviously it's OSB, so it can break the damage cap. Now the damage does suffer a little bit because it is non-elemental, but in situations like Idea's Jumpstart, for example, where she had rotating elemental weaknesses, and I really just didn't feel like messing with that, I brought Noctis and Onion Knight and was able to just power right on through all of her weaknesses because I just didn't care. And he's really good for that, and if you end up with his LMR, his BSB, and you can even legend dive him. He is a dive-worthy character. And then his USB in the future, which is kind of his most highlight relic, because it'll have the 100% stone skin bubble. So if you are planning to build Noctis, just keep in mind that he is a non-elemental god, but there are going to be some ramifications for that. He doesn't really get good use of the celerity abilities that he can make use of because they just don't mesh well with his Legend Materia and all the other combat-oriented stuff he has going on. So by itself, this is a good OSB. The Armiger mode is amazing, but currently, unless you happen to get the Iris BSB or Noctis's BSB for the Command 2, the barrier usually doesn't end up lasting that long, so you will lose all of those really important buffs. Now, if you can trade back and forth between his BSB and keeping the bubble active using that Command 2 with this OSB to stay in Armiger mode, then you're going to have a really optimal combo for doing a hell of a lot of damage. Now, this is going to be much more relevant in the future when his USB does come out. Like I had said, it has the 100% stone skin bubble, which is going to make all this a lot more easy to manage, as well as USB features another effect that stays active while he has stone skin going on. So again, Noctis is an amazing character, really good OSB. By itself, it is just kind of a finishing move, but when you can tandem it with a lot of the other stuff he's got going on, you definitely won't be upset with Noctis as a character. Next up here, we have kind of another generic OSB, but this is the Blade of Brenier for Gladiolus here. We have a 173 attack sword, so we had to one-up Noctis by 1 point there. And you do have another 6-star fire sword here that's going to complement Cypher's USB, making this the second 6-star always active fire sword, with the added synergy bonus to Earth as well. So that is pretty cool. Just by itself, it's a great stat stick for sword users. The OSB Dawnhammer, massive physical Earth non-elemental damage to one target, deals more damage for each attack the user has taken, can break the damage cap. This does stack pretty well with his ability to tank and taunt and retaliate, taunt-taliate, tank-taliate, whatever you want to call it. This is going to work really well with that mechanic. However, Gladiolus' legend dives are really not super great. I would probably not recommend legend diving either Iris or Gladiolus. They are 100% functional and actually very good characters without any of their legend materials whatsoever. So in terms of legend diving and legend materials, cross your fingers that you get all of Noctis' stuff. That's going to be the way to go. However, Iris's legend materia for double casting white magic is really, really good. So that's another one that you'll want as a secondary if you're building her as a healer, which is going to be the way to go for Sid missioning Final Fantasy 15 content. Dawnhammer is just fairly average in terms of an OSB, but it's a great sword, great relic to have, and if you are building Gladiolus, you will definitely want to pick up this shiny right here. Next up, we have the War Sword. It's going to complement Gladiolus' OSB here. You have 140 attack, and no bonus effects, no other stats on it. The BSB is Tempest, 6 physical Earth non-elemental attacks to all targets, infuse the user with the power of Earth, and grant haste burst mode to the user. This is going to see benefits even further into the future when the Final Fantasy V relic banners drop. You will have Dorgan's armor, I believe that's how you say his name, but it is a plus Earth armor. So Gladiolus will be able to make good use of that. He can use heavy armor, so definitely keep that in mind. It'll benefit him. This is a reasonably good entry effect on this BSB right here. Physical and Earth stuff is pretty rare. So Burst Command 1, Shield Slam, 1 to 5 physical Earth non-elemental attacks to one target. Number of attacks dealt depends on the user's defense. So this is just a hard scale on this Burst Command 1 here. By the time you have Gladiolus up to level 99, you should have no issues getting the 5 attacks. And it is pretty good. It's not going to be amazing damage. You know, he is more of a Guardian than he is a DPSer. But it's still a good command. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any other modifiers on it like cast time reduction or buffs or anything. But we do have a buff on Burst Command 2 here. It's not quite a bargain. It's actually all beneficial effects if you play Gladiolus the way he's meant to be played. 2 physical Earth non-elemental attacks to one target. Raise the user's defense a very large amount and temporarily divert all single target physical and black magic attacks to them. This does suffer from a symptom that we've seen of a lot of other tank-style BSBs and just effects in general. He's going to be taking black magic, and he has no resistance buff coming from anywhere. So you're going to want to be mindful of that, and definitely bring Shelga if you're planning on using this in a magic-heavy dungeon. With that being said, again, N-Earth being fairly rare, and not too many other good options existing, I would definitely not mind if I snagged this one right here. But hopefully I can get tandem here. The biggest pain in the rear end is going to come if you pull on this and you get like mismatched relics all over the place, making not any, like if you get only Noctis' OSB and then only Gladiolus' SSB and only Iris' LMR, just for example. I hate it when the game does stuff like that, because it's definitely like someone taking a stick and poking it through your bike spokes when you're in forward motion, getting hooked off the bike there. It's like, oh, so much excitement, forward momentum just crushed. But Moving forward here, we do have a BSB for Iris, the Moogle plushie. It is similar, but not the same to the same type of equipment that you're going to see on Lulu. So you do have a thrown weapon here with this plushie doll. 81 attack, 25 magic, and 139 mind. No bonus effects. And you do have the BSB Kupo Cure. Restore a moderate amount of HP to all allies. Grant them a barrier that negates attack damage up to 30% of their max. And grant them a temporary barrier that enables them to avoid one debuff, haste burst mode to the user. BSB commands here are very standard white magic BSB commands. Pocket Elixir, instant restore a very large amount of HP to one ally. That does benefit from that instant effect right there. And then Pocket Potion, you do restore a small amount of HP to all allies. So the top one is on par with Y'shtola's BSB command 1. Unfortunately, the entry suffers a little bit because the initial cure is only a moderate amount, so you're not going to get the full health that you'd get from bringing a more powerful healing BSB, but there's a lot of utility in this. The Stone Skin and the debuff Blink are both great things to bring along. This will complement Noctis, like I had mentioned earlier, very, very well and make him much more viable if he's got Armiger mode going on, because you'll be able to strategically refresh that if you need to. And then, just being the only real healer from Final Fantasy 15, at least as of right now, you're going to want this. Again, since every item is brand new on this banner, I would not mind. Whatever I draw, I don't mind, as long as it's not mishmashed all over the place. So, this is a pretty good BSB here that will be highly complemented by her LMR if you happen to snag that as well. Next up here, I think we do have Noctis's BSB. So, yep, we got the Prince's Fatigues. This is going to be light armor, 17 attack, 116 defense resistance. No bonus effects, again, since he's classified as combat with non-elemental only. Not really expecting to see too many bonus effects for him. You do have the BSB, the Kings of Old. Instantly deal 10 physical attacks to one target. Temporarily raise the user's attack a moderate amount, defense and resistance a small amount, and grant haste burst mode to the user. So it is quite a selfish buff for Noctis, but it's going to work highly in his favor to help push him towards being the damage cannon that he really can be. With all of his quick cast and high cast and Legend Materia diving for starting the battle with haste and quick cast 3, and he's just capable of doing some really mind-bendingly fast attacks for a really good amount of damage. So I do plan on hopefully snagging relics for him and being able to dive him out here. But you do have the burst abilities here. These do kind of suffer a little bit, but the death drop, 2 physical attacks to one target, and reduce the delay of the user's actions for 2 turns. Instead of being like Sid Reigns where you have 4 attacks with a 1-turn instant, this is going to be sacrificing those 2 hits for 2 turns of delay reduction. So you might lose a little bit of top-end DPS just spamming this, but it'll make up for it in the fact that he's going to be able to recast stuff at a very alarming rate. And then Point Warp, you're going to have restore 1 ability use to the user's ability with the fewest remaining uses, so similar to like Alphino and Kane's BSB2 command, but it also refreshes his Stone Skin barrier back up to 30%. So you want to use this in tandem with his OSB if you're trying to activate Armiger mode. This is going to keep that going and potentially make him pretty unkillable. Now for really, really high-end content, you're probably still going to see times when you lose that barrier. In the future, when his USB comes into play, it's just going to get ridiculous from there. But this BSB kind of sets him up to combo really well with things like Omega Drive and Full Charge, especially when you have his LMR that's going to have him with a chance to double cast. Then you're going to see just really amazing results in non-elemental department from Noctis here. This is the BSB I would like to get the most, and then probably Iris second, so I have some viable healing, and just mainly to complement that Stone Skin bubble, and you know, instant heals on that BSB Command 1 are always appreciated. So, Kings of Old, great BSB here. Definitely want to snag that one if we can. And hopefully we don't pull just a bunch of 111s. I know I just probably jinxed myself, but I guess we'll find out. Next up, we're into the LMRs here. And the best one, closely followed by Iris's, is Noctis here. We have the Bronze Bangle, kind of generic names, like one of the starter items in Final Fantasy VII. But That being said, the results you'll get from this one are amazing, and honestly, you almost kind of need this one to really see Noctis at his full potential. But you got 31 attack, 96 defense, 18 magic, 92 resistance, 18 mind, just kind of stacked up to benefit whoever might be wearing it should you want to equip it for synergy. No bonus effects, again, common theme with Noctis here. And the Legend Materia, Divine Revelation, small chance for combat abilities to trigger twice. Just bread and butter is really good. There's just not much else you can say. The 8 potential hits on Omega Drive or full charge, or the boosted potential for hits on the BSB commands just makes this almost a must-have if you are building Noctis. You'll want to Legend Dive him as well for a flat 10% bonus to combat damage. And the second one being the Start the Battle with Haste and Quick Cast 3. Those are very desirable, as well as this to have him fully decked out. I would probably say his LM2 diveable and then this LMR would be the 2 you'd want to equip here. So great LMR. We're going to move on here to the Kite Shield. This is probably the worst out of the 3. It's kind of an underpowered mechanic here. We got 17 attack, 136 defense, 90 resistance, and no bonus effects. Unfortunately, no earth damage resistance. I would like to have seen either of those. Legend Materia, Shield of the King. Moderate chance to redirect physical damage taken by allies to the user. Reduce that damage a small amount. We have seen this before on other knight characters that have LMR. It does have a pretty nifty looking animation when it triggers, but in terms of being just viable for helping you push through dungeons, gonna have kind of mixed results with this one. Not gonna be useful whatsoever in a magic based dungeon. So with that being said, his Legend Diving as well as Iris's Legend Diving, not really recommended, and Iris's Legend Materia, which is right here, is definitely desirable. It's basically the same as Noctis's, but small chance for white magic abilities to trigger twice. That's invaluable for healing, especially if you're only running one healer. And that's the general meta, is to only run one healer, and this will make that immensely more useful. Now, she is a dancer and white mage, so she doesn't have access to stuff like Wrath. So with that being said, this is going to help out her healing game a whole lot in that downtime when you don't have her soul break gauge filled up potentially. So great one here as well. The 24 attack, 96 defense, 18 magic, 92 resistance, 28 mind. Again, kind of just designed to complement whoever might be wearing it for synergy. Next up we have the most average kind of meh super soul break of the bunch here. The two-handed sword for Gladiolus. 140 attack, no bonus effects. Pep talk. Temporarily raise the party's attack a large amount and grant them last stand. This is a very desirable effect, but it's not going to be the only relic you're going to want for Gladiolus. Like, if you only pull this one, it doesn't really give him any viability to put him on your A team, and probably not even your B team. So by itself, this is kind of the Sid Mission and Synergy relic only here. I believe it's the same as Minfilia's Super Soul Break. I'm not 100% on that though. But we've seen this before, kind of like Shout, but you lose the haste for last stand, which again is very useful, but you're going to want his other relics to make him a character you're going to want to bring to your A team, and then you might maybe see usage on this for probably some harder content. Now, because there are only 3 Final Fantasy 15 characters right now, that still leaves 2 party slots for you to bring someone like Ramza for Shout, or Onion Knight for the Hastega and the buffs, so you might probably will want to be using his BSB into the OSB combo, but again, you know, it is useful effects. We're not gonna poop on it too hard. Next up, we have the White Choker. Ooh la la. For Iris here, light armor, 0 attack, 17 magic, 116 defense resistance, and 17 mind. No bonus effects. And Eclipse, your Super Soul Break. 5 white magic, non-elemental attacks to all targets. Temporarily raise the critical hit chance of all allies a large amount and grant them haste. So combining this with Gladiolus's SSB basically gives you a way amped up version of that Ramza or Final Fantasy VII Sid Shout effect. You'll have the critical buff as well, and you get the attacks on entry. So this is a really good SSB right here. a little bit better than Realms, if I'm not mistaken, which has some similar effects on it. All in all, the SSB ranking I would say here would be Noctis first, this one second, and then Gladiolus is third. Really good effects on this one, especially for your critical and haste related reason. Wouldn't mind seeing that one. Hopefully we don't just 111 SSBs here. Ugh, I know, now I've said it twice. I'm in a lot of trouble. So we are down to the last item for reviewing here, the Gladiolus Link Super Soul Break for Noctis. This is actually an amazing Super Soul Break right here. The Air Step Sword, you're looking at 140 attack, no other stats, and no bonus effects. As per the usual, your Super Soul Break Gladiolus Link instantly deals 6 physical attacks to one target and remove the delay from all allies' actions for 1 turn. This is going to make up for how selfish the BSB entry is for him. The instant cast 1 for the whole team is an amazing effect. I generally get that from Rams's USB at this current time, but it just adds tons of utility value to this. As well, instant 6 attacks is not really terrible either. So you do have a great SSB for Noctis, a good BSB for Noctis that complements him well, and a reasonably good finishing move, which will really see amazing usage when his USB does come out. Those are all of the items on the banner, so let's just hit a 100 gem draw real quick and hope we get lucky. I had 100 gem drawed on all 3 of the beginner banners, and I only got a terrible unique soul break for lightning on the Final Fantasy 13 one. Doesn't look like we're having any luck here for this 100 gem draw either. So this banner is easily worth 50 mithril. So let's cross our fingers here and make one pull, see if we can't come out lucky. And again, Sword of the Father is my only dupe here, so I kind of want to avoid that one for some of the other really cool stuff on this banner here. And here we go. Alright, diving right in. Cross your fingers. Come on, Dr. Mog. Please. Alright. God. That's going to be either a dupe or Gladiolus' OSB. Hope for Gladiolus, because we want that 6-star fire sword. Let's click through this mess here, and depending on what this stuff is, we might make another pull here. Alright.
I kneel before no man. I may be all muscle and no metal, but I'm gonna keep protecting Noct. The only way I know how.
And we did! We got Gladiolus' OSB here, so that's pretty good. We have a Final Fantasy XV OSB combo now at this point. And the Super Soul Break for him as well. Makes him a little bit more viable, but we're going to need that BSB. And unfortunately, we're not seeing anything for Noctis here. Alright, so we're back for the final draw. And hopefully we get lucky again, because that first draw was kind of lucky. We didn't just get trolled by only a 1 of 11 SSB. Alright, well we got a 2 out of 11, just hope for the best here. I still don't have an LMR in this game. I've never seen an LMR pop up. Alright, we got the white choker. And we got, well, we got Noctis's, okay. We got Noctis's LMR, which is an essential piece of gear for him. Unfortunately, we don't have his BSB. We really kind of need the BSB, and I want his SSB sword as well. So, this is my first LMR, and honestly, I'm actually really stoked about that, because this is one of the dual cast ones. This is one of the ones that are very, very highly coveted, and it's going to further my Noctis and make him capable of doing those 8-hit Omega drives and those 8-hit full charges. So, I don't have any more resources to make any more pulls right now. I'm going to have to cut it off there. I may use a gift card to buy some gems. I don't know. I really would like Noctis' BSB, but spending a whole bunch of money chasing it is obviously a terrible, terrible idea. I can't recommend that to anybody. Don't chase after a single relic. It almost always ends badly. And you gotta know that stuff for Noctis is going to return. He's going to be a super popular character. So if you guys' pulls, hopefully they went really well, the ones that you guys made. But if they didn't, just remember that most everything in this game is cyclical, and it will come back around. That pretty much wraps up everything I have to say for this episode. Noctis, Gladiolus, and Iris are all 3 really good characters, and based on the fact they're the only 3 available in the realm, you're going to want them for Sid missioning, synergy, and just having fun with Final Fantasy XP content. I do hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Relic Review. It's been the first one in a little bit here, but expect more for the Final Fantasy IV banners and further on into the future as well. I hope to see you guys again on future videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed the content. Definitely helps me out, spreads me out on YouTube a little bit. If you didn't like it at all, go ahead, leave a dislike. I don't really mind. The engagement really kind of doesn't bother me. It helps all the way around. So hopefully if you're new, you'll drop a sub, and I'll see you again in the future. This is Nazdarachi, and hit the little bell as well so you get those notifications. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, y'all.